Okay, I'm Brad Cook from Aloha Pools, and this is Pool School. First thing I like to tell people about how to take care of their pool is I like to give them a little bit of information about what it is actually taking care of their pool. So first we have the pump. The pump pulls water from the pool in 3 different places and pushes water through the sand filter, and the filtered water returns back to the pool, sometimes through a salt system like you see here, sometimes through UV, sometimes through eroding chlorinators, and sometimes just nothing. But anyway, you have filtered water that goes back to the pool. So all these valves here I'll explain in just a minute, but that is the primary function of the pump and the filter system. The pump is basically a motor end and a wet end that's joined together with an impeller on the end of the motor that actually draws water from the pool through the skimmer and the main drains, and that's how everything gets started on your pump. It's kind of like the heart of the pool, you might say. So here we have a shallow skimmer, which is basically the skimmer that's placed in the shallow end. We have the main drain, which is the drains in the deepest part of the pool, and we have a deep skimmer, which is the skimmer in the deep end of the pool, and we have a French drain. And a French drain is not a part of day-to-day use, but you will find it on some pools that we build in lower lying areas where the water table is high in the ground. This is a maintenance issue, and you never run this while you're using your normal filter operation. So you're typically running through your skimmers and your main drain. So all the water is coming from your skimmers and your main drain through that pump. And now the skimmers have a skimmer basket that I'll show you in a little bit, but the pump has a basket in it too. And what the basket does is it catches leaves and large debris, and it keeps it going in from the sand filter. So the basket's it's considered a primary strainer for the main drain, because the main drain doesn't have a basket for you to empty out because it's down in the deep in the pool. And it's a secondary strainer for the skimmer baskets, because the skimmer basket itself is a strainer. Periodically, you have to turn the pump off and open the pump basket and clean that out. To clean your pump basket out, you'll first need to turn off your pump, open the pump lid, remove the basket, clean the debris out. At this point, some people will take a water hose and really clean it out and get it perfect, but you really don't have to get it perfect. What you need is a lot of open hose for water to pass through very well. I really want to wash this out, but I know I don't have to. And so a lot of times what I will do is I'll tap like this, tap it on this side, knock it out, and then just put it right back in. You want to be careful too to make sure there are no leaves that could pull, that are down in here, that go under the basket, because they have a tendency to get stuck in the impeller. So you want to make sure it's clean under the basket before you put the basket back in. You'll also want to make sure that the O-ring on your pump lid stays on your pump lid. You'll set it back down and you'll tighten your lid back. And most of the time you can start your pump back up. So when you start your pump back up, you look down in through the top of the filter lid, and you'll see your water starting to build. If you have water starting to build, then more than likely it will continue to build momentum, and then within a couple of minutes your pump will be running back to normal speed with a lot of water coming in there. I'll tell you one little tip. We've had people call us before saying, I have no water in my pump basket. The pool is not flowing because there's no water in there. But there is a frog in there that's doing somersaults. Basically what's going on is they're used to seeing bubbles in their pump, and finally all the bubbles have purged and there's no more air bubbles coming in. So it's so full of water, it looks like there's no water in it. Something to consider when you go to a pump lid kind of like this, because this one is cleared up really quick and you can't tell that there's any water. But you can always look for water flow coming back to the pool. That's a really good sign that you've got water flow, because it's like you see right there, lots of water flowing. One more thing that you'll want to know for wintertime is there are a couple plugs typically on an in-ground pool pump that you can unscrew and drain your pump. Drain this part of your pump and then the back part of your pump as well. And that's about it on pool pumps. Okay, let's talk about your sand filter. The basic operation of a sand filter is water's coming from the pump through this valve, and while it's on filter, the water evenly sprays out from under the valve down into the tank through the sand, which is about halfway in your filter system, which is about halfway in your tank. Water comes through the valve. When it's on filter, it pushes down through the sand that's in the pool filter at about this level right here. So you've got filter sand at about this level, water's coming down through it, and that's where your filtration takes place. Inside the middle of the tank, there is a pipe with some little slotted fingers that come out into the sand, and that's where the water returns. Filters through the sand, through these slotted fingers, and then back up through a pipe in the middle of this valve, and then goes back to the pool. I tell you that because over time, this sand, the top level of this sand right here, will get dirt in it, and that's a good thing because filtering through dirt is better than filtering through sand. So what happens is, though, as the dirt accumulates on top of the sand, the filtration does get better, but the water flow slows down. When the water flow slows down, you'll also notice this pressure gauge will have jumped, and typically, if you will let your pressure gauge get 8 to 10 pounds above normal before you backwash, you'll maximize your filtration on your sand filter, because you've gotten a chance for the water to filter through the dirt, which is better than filtering through sand. So let it get 8 to 12 pounds above normal before you backwash. And we'll backwash here in a moment. But I'll say something else too. On startup, on your filter system, that is how you tell when you've got clean sand, when the pool is running wide open, you look at your pressure gauge and you mark that as your normal pressure. This one is sitting at around 12 pounds of pressure. So if this is my normal pressure, I'm going to go up to about 20 pounds to 22 pounds, and it can go a little higher than that before I even consider backwashing. And I've heard people say backwash once a week. That's not good. That's not necessarily a good thing. I've had people call me and say, I backwash 5 times a day. That doesn't do any good, because you're just cleaning clean sand when you do that. And you want the sand to be a little bit dirty. Next, we have a filter that's 10 or 12 pounds above the normal operating pressure, so we're going to backwash. What you do to backwash is we're going to turn this valve around to backwash. First thing you'll do is you'll turn your pump off. Next, you will push the valve down, turn it around to backwash. Next, you'll turn your pump back on. Now the water is reversing, going down through the bottom of the filter, through the little slotted fingers, and it's floating the sand up, and it's floating the dirt up. As you'll see, water is coming out of the back wash line right there, and what will happen is the water will go from clean to a brownish green color, and then back to clean. You can see what it's doing there, okay? If you can't see, if you plumb your backwash line like out to a ditch, there's this sight glass right here, and you'll see this go from clean to brown to clean again. And when it starts to get clean again, that's when you turn your pump off, turn around to rinse. And when you turn your pump back on, the rinse cycle is basically filtering the water, settling the sand back down. The water that's going through is still going out your waste line or your backwash line. So we'll turn that on, let that run for probably around 10 seconds. and then we will turn that off. After that, we can turn this right back around the filter and turn the pump back on, and we're going again. A couple of other things that I'll show you on this system, and I'll tell you that anytime you need to move this valve, you've got to have your pump off. Some other things that you can do with this valve right here is if you overfill your pool and you want to get the water down really quick, you can turn your valve to waste. If you have a lot of dirt in your pool and you want to vacuum it and you don't want to put it in your filter sand, you can turn your valve to waste and then put your vacuum equipment in and vacuum the pool to waste. So all the dirt comes straight from the pump and straight back out to the ground. The other place on the valve is recirculate. Recirculate is basically the water comes from the pool and then goes straight back to the pool, and as a consumer, I would never recommend anybody actually using that. It's basically stirring the water. I have seen our techs use it to put a little bit of chlorine down in the skimmer and let it circulate, but it goes straight back to the pool. So like when you're winterizing your pool or something, you need to get something to dissolve. It doesn't need to sit in the filter. It needs to get back to the pool. Not much use for recirculate. The other setting is closed, which basically blocks the flow off through the valve in all directions. Don't see people using that much on in-ground pools. It's a very nice feature for above-ground pools. On an in-ground pool, if your pool water is way up here and your filter system is way down here, it's kind of good in that situation too, where so you can cut the flow of water back to the pool. Okay, let's talk about the water going back to the pool. So now we've got filtered water, and in this case, sanitized water. And this is a sacrificial anode that we put on our pools now. So you got your water coming back to the pool. It's clean, it's sanitized, and the way this is set up right now, the only thing that's on is wall returns. When you look at a valve, you can see if it's on or off by, if it's running with the pipe, it's on. If it's running across the pipe, it is off. So I've got a wall return here, which is basically returning all the clean water through your jets, or people call them through the jets, they call them eyeballs, they call them inlets, or they call them returns. So right now, all I have on is my wall returns. If I turn this valve, I see it's labeled step return. So my steps will come on, and my step returns will come on. Nice thing about step returns is it's an area where a pool cleaner doesn't always get to. So if you have water flowing across your steps, there's a better chance of you having a cleaner step. So I like to point my returns back toward the steps to help to kind of keep them swept off without having to worry about the manual sweeping of the step. It just helps a little bit. Now this pool has 3 fountains. When I turn the 3 fountains on, I have every possible valve open that's sending water back to the pool. In situations where you have a slide and several fountains, sometimes not everything will work. Or say this customer might not like that his fountains only go up 3 feet in the air. It's perfectly fine to turn off or turn back one of the valves to give you more water pressure. And so you can really get a lot of flow out of them if you turn them way back, almost too much flow. So you kind of got to be careful with how you regulate the water coming back to the pool. And that's about all I can think about on how to operate an in-ground pool with this type of equipment on it.